Hey guys, welcome to the Tone Show. I was on Twitter. I'm sorry, Elon. I will never call it X. And I came upon a tweet. I don't remember who said it, but it was something like, everything I've learned about this woman was against my will. And it was a picture of Taylor Swift. And it clicked with me when I saw that because it made me think and wonder about the fact that the same is true for me. As someone who's not really a big country fan or a big Taylor Swift fan, everything I know about Taylor Swift was fed to me through the media. And I do the cancel series where I discuss like what videos get canceled and why they get canceled. We dive into that on this channel. Something that some of my viewers probably know, like a show doesn't get enough promotions on the media enough, it ends up getting canceled. But there's a phenomenon that I feel like it's taking place with a few select celebrities. In this case, like the media is overexposing these people, and it has nothing to do with promotion. If this was the case, then the shows that I cover all the time would always be around because the media would just push them outside of promotion. So there's something very different happening here. And I wanted to start with Kaitlyn Clark, even though we're going to touch on Taylor Swift. And after that, I want to tell you about a couple celebrities who I think are just as talented, but the phenomenon doesn't happen with them. And then we're going to touch about another phenomenon that's related to this, about the white women effect, as I call it. So if that sounds fun, stick around. We're going to dive into this. Let's do this. So the first person we're going to talk about is basketball player Kaitlyn Clark. And I don't know anything about women's basketball, so I think I'm the perfect person to speak about the subject because everything I've learned has been forced to me through the media. And this has nothing to do with Kaitlyn Clark or Taylor Swift, like them as people. This is everything to do about how the media works. So as far as Kaitlyn Clark, she's obviously a very talented basketball player. They said that the actual basketball league, the NCAA, the women's basketball viewership actually increased 25% in 2023. Some people attribute that to her. She also has won numerous awards for basketball. So a very accomplished player. Nobody's debating that. Nobody's saying that she's not accomplished. She's obviously very talented. My question is why is the media completely always putting her in front of us? And every time we click, she's there. And this is not the same for other basketball players. You can say, well, she's the first basketball player who's this talented. And I doubt that. The WNBA is full of basketball players who are women, who are talented. You can say that she's white. Well, the WNBA is full of white women who are talented. The View had a whole discussion, and they were saying, oh, this part of it is pretty privilege. And I would argue that statistically, there has to be other beautiful women in the WNBA if that's the case. What about her is it? And the same thing can be said about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is a phenomenon. I don't take that away from her. Her Eras tour grossed over $1 billion. And the first instance of me learning about Taylor Swift was it was either the Grammys or the MTV Awards when Kanye West went on stage and he took the mic and he said, "I'm gonna let you finish." Like, that's the first time I've seen Taylor Swift. And at that point, you could say she was a popular country singer. She wasn't the phenomenon she is today, but Taylor Swift has just been shoved down our throats for the past few years. And I think being locked in during the pandemic, it even got worse. And you can argue, well, Tone Show, what about other artists? Well, if you look at Beyonce, she launched a tour similar to Taylor Swift after, and she also launched the movie just like Taylor Swift. The coverage of that movie and that tour was nowhere near Taylor Swift. I think CNN basically has like a place on their site where they just cover Taylor Swift. Like, it's got out of control. And Beyonce is just as talented, you would say, in her own rights. And we don't get Beyonce shoved down our throats 24/7. Eminem just came out with a new single, Houdini. I love it. Big Eminem fan. He's one of the most talented rappers ever. And the coverage of Eminem is not 24/7, 365 days a week. And you can also say, hey, what about the Kardashians, Tone Show? They got a lot of coverage. And there was a point where you couldn't go anywhere about the Kardashians being shoved down your throat. But I feel like it's a different phenomenon with that because the Kardashians, I will give something to those women. They work. Like, they do everything possible to stay on tabloids and to be talked about. When they're not dating some athlete or marrying someone or starting a beef or launching a multi-billion-dollar business, the Kardashians are always doing something to get the camera on them. And I will give them that. Those women work hard and they hustle. So it's not the same thing. Kaitlyn Clark, besides playing basketball, it's not like she's going on a media tour or she's, like the Kardashians, marrying someone or dating someone famous or launching a reality show like the Kardashians. Kaitlyn Clark is basically just playing basketball and she's getting the coverage that she's getting. And the only female basketball player before Kaitlyn Clark was the female basketball player who got caught in Russia, that she was arrested. Let me look that up. Basketball player who was arrested in Russia. Grainer. I'm pronouncing Grainer. Brittany Grainer. That's the other basketball player that I know, and it's because the news just kept covering her story, and eventually she was released when they released someone who we had in jail. So that's the only other basketball player. So you can't tell me that Kaitlyn Clark is like she's that talented and there's no other talented basketball players. Obviously, the news is choosing to cover her more than anyone else. The same thing with Taylor Swift. Even when Taylor Swift is off, I feel like we get a lot of coverage. And that's the thing that I want to go back to with Eminem. Eminem is a known homebody. Like, he likes staying in Detroit and he lives a much more private life. So we don't get 24/7 Eminem, but we get 24/7 Kaitlyn Clark right now and Taylor Swift. And the same thing can be said about Beyonce. When her albums come out, obviously, the Beehive, the views go up and you see more stories about Beyonce, but there's a chill. I feel like with Taylor Swift the last few years, it's just been continuous. And with Kaitlyn Clark is yet to be seen. Like, she's a new phenomenon, so maybe once she gets more ingrained in basketball and she becomes more, the WNBA gets more used to her, maybe there'll be less stories. But right now, on Kaitlyn Clark can sneeze and she'll end up on the cover of a lot of things. Now, there are some factors which we have to consider why this is happening. Is it sensationalism? Is it that the media is biased towards covering a certain race or a certain gender? And that takes me to like the missing white woman effect. When a white woman goes missing, like, there's more coverage of white women than anyone else when they go missing. Like, FBI statistics say that white women missing are like 30% of the people who go missing, but they get 50% of the media coverage. And when a white woman goes missing or something happens to a white woman in America, like, everybody knows about it. And you can say, well, Tone Show, there's more white people than anyone else in America. But if that was true, then there would be a disproportionate amount of just white people all throughout media. And if what we're seeing actually has been a rebalancing, I would say, in the last 30 years, where there's more representation in the media of other races, other genders, of other people. But the white women effect still holds. Like, think John Benet Ramsey. Think about the horrible thing that happened with Gabby Petito, her murder. Like, these things were like in the media right in front of us. So I think the white women effect might be part of it. Again, it might be sensationalism. It might be the economics. Maybe putting Taylor Swift as proving to be a click for someone as far as advertising. Maybe Kaitlyn Clark is the new click, where you put Kaitlyn Clark and people have clicked on it before because they're curious and now they're clicking on it again. It could be something which I call basically the trend loop, where something became trend online, like it became trendy, and all of a sudden, oh, this thing is in vogue. People click on it. Let me run a story about this. Maybe Taylor Swift's fan base, some people would argue, is so large that even when she's not producing music, like, people still click on it. The clicks before inspire people to write more stories in the future, which they then click on. Same thing now with Kaitlyn Clark. Maybe the stories about Kaitlyn Clark, they went somewhere that they never went before as far as viewership and as far as clicks and advertising for these media companies. And they're like, well, writing about Kaitlyn Clark seems to like get these people upset or get people excited. So let me run more Kaitlyn Clark stories. So it's like the media may have started like with these players, like outside of their own talent. I'm not talking about talent here. I'm talking about they're talented, they got the coverage, but the media is now basically feeding itself. I'm going back to Ouroboros. You know how I love talking about the snake eating its own tail? Well, this could be the media eating its own tail. Like, they basically shove these stories in front of our faces. We get either excited or mad about them, and then they give us some more. And maybe there's a doom spiral with Taylor Swift and Kaitlyn Clark, but instead of a doom spiral, it's a money spiral, right? Maybe it's going up, and that's what's happening. And maybe there's a psychological effect. Are we more primed to click on white women's faces for some reason? Is something psychological that happened as we grew up here in America, that we're more likely to click on a white face of a woman? I don't know. I'm not a sociologist. Some YouTuber who's into science, go put it in the comments. Let us know. Are we more likely to click on white faces of women in advertising? Is that what it is? Is basically because the people in advertising are white women and they're presenting it to the audience of everyone in America. Like, what is it? Like, why is Taylor Swift and Kaitlyn Clark being always shoved in our faces? I don't know. Like, put in the comments. Like, this is your part. This is where you come in and you tell me your opinion. Do you feel like there is an oversaturation of these people in the media? And why? What do you think it is? You think it's multiple effects? Or is there a bias? Are the places that I go read my news and watch my videos more saturated and populated with Kaitlyn Clark and Taylor Swift, who, if you haven't gotten it already, I believe who are incredibly talented? Why are they so trendy? And why have they been so trendy and stay trendy, even though I don't feel like the same is said of other people who are as equally talented? Just some thoughts wanted to put out there into the internet. Put in the comments. Let me know what you think. As always, this is the Tone Show. Tone Show.